Hey, you guys. Welcome. Welcome to Greater Life, Greater Impact. We've got a lot of new faces popping on. Sorry if I'm distracted, but I'm letting people into the room as we speak. So welcome. I cannot believe this is episode number 24 in our sovereignty series. So all this year, for the year 2023, we've been talking about spiritual sovereignty, spiritual autonomy. If you've missed any of the classes, if you're brand new and you're just now learning about these classes that we do every Tuesday, please go over to my YouTube channel, Greater Life, Greater Impact, and check out some of the past replays that we've done. We've talked about a lot in regards to spiritual sovereignty, and this is episode 24. So today we're talking all about tapping in and realizing your true divine potential by tapping into the divine. And the reason that this topic even came up was I had a full day of mentoring coaching yesterday. So for those of you who don't know, I do private mentoring, one-on-one sessions with people. I'm a quantum healer. And then I also do spiritual sovereignty, personal one-on-one mentoring. So what I do is I help you to tap into the uncharted waters of who you really are for healing and for transformation and for all kinds of whatever it is that you're looking for, right? And yesterday was a back-to-back, bumper-to-bumper day of client calls. And there was this theme. I noticed this theme popping up. I do something called body audits. And I did about 4 body audits with people yesterday. And that is where we take your symptoms. I jot down a list of what your symptoms are, your physical ailments, the parts of your body that aren't working or the parts of your body that aren't getting along. And we do a deep dive to try to find out, what is your body saying to you? What's your body saying to you and about you? Hold on, I got to let this person in. And that's what we do. And so in that session, as we were working on that stuff together, and stuff was bubbling up, and this gentleman was getting very emotional, and emotions were being released. There was a lot of sadness coming up. And so I asked in that moment, I said, what's coming up for you? What's the sadness about? And what he said to me was, I'm not realizing my highest potential. That was his greatest suffering in his life at that moment in time. And his body was affirming that. His body was being the second witness to the fact that that's something that was not happening in his life. And he was very well aware of that. And so there was emotion behind it. Then I went into my next session with another gentleman, and similar thing happened to him. We were doing a body audit, and a lot of the beliefs and the emotions and the patterns and the things that were coming up in regards to his physical symptoms and limitations, there was emotion coming up around that. Some of his emotion was anger and fear and still some sadness. So there was some tears being shed. So I asked the same question. What's going on underneath all of that? What's happening for you? And the response to that question was, my life is not the manifestation of the truest desires of my soul. My life is not the manifestation or the materialization of where I feel like my life path is wanting to take me. I'm not in alignment. And that is not a good feeling. Nobody wants to be in that unalignment or out of balance or feeling like you're stuck in the mud somewhere. You can't manifest exactly what your soul is leading you to. It's not a good feeling. And then the third session came up. And in that session, I worked with a woman who said, we were talking about her health challenges, and she had a lot. And she says, I'm not afraid of dying. I've never been afraid of dying. I'm afraid of suffering. So how do I release the fear of all this suffering that I'm going through? So I want you to think about where in your life do you feel stuck? Where in your life do you feel there's an imbalance or you're out of alignment with where your soul is honestly trying to lead you? Or are you one of those people who's in a good space right now and you do feel very much in alignment with 100% of your soul's journey, your soul's path? Some people do feel that, because at the end of the day, what we recognize, what we start to realize is I'm always right where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. But sometimes it feels out of alignment because there is some suffering, there is emotion, there are beliefs, there are challenges, there are things that we have to work through the muck to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. And so as we worked through some of these emotions in these I had like 6 different mentoring sessions yesterday, but as we worked through the emotions in each of those sessions with people, across the board, unequivocally, every single time, what is at the end of the tunnel, what's at the end of the processing and the moving through all of that energy and having that energy move through you, is love. That's always where it leads. When you process and work through all of that stuff and you allow those energies to work through you and move through you, what's on the other side of the processing and the resolution and the healing is love. Every time. So you're going to find that the concepts and the principles in this class today are very simple. It boils down to one thing. If there's only one takeaway you get from today's discussion, it would likely be this: your highest potential is love. Your highest potential is the manifestation of love. The highest levels of love that you can choose into. So complete and total surrender to what is, and complete and total acceptance of what is, will produce a byproduct of love. Complete and total surrender of what is and complete and total acceptance of what is will produce a byproduct of love. And it is for us to accept what is and love it. There's a great quote. I can't remember who it's by. Can't remember who it's by. One of the LDS general authorities said, "Come what may and love it." Come what may and love it. But it's difficult for us to surrender to what is within, especially when we feel tormented. So a big part of the process then for healing and tapping into your highest potential and realizing your highest potential and actually getting to that place, getting there, we have to know first what is behind the pain. It does take some level of awareness to understand what is behind this pain. What is behind this suffering? And how am I creating the suffering? Okay. So our truest, highest potential is to be tuned in to the flow of love, which is the divine. It's to be tuned in to the flow of God's highest will for you. Andrea says, we've heard all of our lives that love is the answer. Why do you think people have a hard time understanding this simple principle? Do they not really understand what love is? Potentially. Potentially, my gut feeling about that, Andrea, I do have opinions about that, and mine might not be right. So again, you have to take whatever resonates with you and then go figure out where truth lies for you. That's between you and God. I am nobody's guru here, but what I've seen seen and witnessed and just observed as I work with people is that anywhere in your body where there's a shutdown of the flow of love in or out of you, if your heart is shut down in any way, shape, or form as a result of non-forgiveness, or maybe you're resisting something that's coming to you, or maybe you're resisting someone, the remedy is opening and expanding the heart. That's the remedy. But you can't get there through the brain. You can't get there by analyzing it, because your brain doesn't feel. Your heart feels. Your brain does not feel feelings. Your brain will analyze the hell out of everything until you're totally and completely confused. And so in many ways, we have to allow our brains to do what they're going to do, but also be willing to drop down out of our brain and drop down deep into the heart space and open that heart space up. For those of you guys who might have missed it, I did a class back in December of 2022. So just this past December, I did a class on opening up the heart, and I highly recommend it. When I post this to YouTube, this class, it will be in the description box. I'll share it with you. But it's a class on opening up the heart space, and I highly recommend it because it was all just this healing experience where we went deep into the heart to uncover, you know, what's blocking you from letting love in, or also allowing love to spill out. So again, we kind of need to know, at least to some degree, we need to know what is behind the pain and suffering. What is behind the tears? What's behind the anger? What's behind the fear? What's behind that fear of suffering? What is behind that fear of not being on your true soul's path or not realizing your divine potential? What's behind that? What is blocking you? Okay, so again, I just want to reiterate. I got to reiterate this. This is the whole point of today's class. If this is all you get out of today's class, you're good to go. But this is the point, is our true potential is to be tuned in to the highest, most divine will of God for you. And how you'll know that you're tuned into the highest will of God for you is there will be an increase of love and joy and peace. Those are the fruits of the Spirit. In fact, let's go. Anne Fernandez, hi Anne, says, I like this. And going deeper into what love means, check out Corinthians 13:4. Thank you for doing that. That's funny because I was just going to pull up Galatians 5:22 and someone just put it in there. So let's read it right now because I have it already pulled up on my phone. Man, you guys, we are in sync. Go, Galatians 5:22. Let's do that one first. The fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, long-suffering. Why would long-suffering be in there? We can talk about that in a minute. Gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Christ's have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit, meaning these fruits, right? That's how you can discern whether or not you're in alignment with God's highest will for you, is because those will be the fruits. So let's go to, we're going to go to Corinthians. I know which one you're talking about, Anne. Corinthians 13. Let's go there. (13:4). Charity. Charity is the highest levels of love that there could possibly be. It is not just giving to the poor. Charity is the highest levels of love. It's godly love. It's the love that you feel when you're tapped in to the divine. That's how you know. Andrea, did you have a comment?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wondered why what does long suffering have to do with love?
I love that. Okay, let's talk about it. And if you guys have any thoughts, drop them in the comments or unmute yourself and we'll talk about, I see that Anne is unmuted. So Anne, did you want to answer that? Okay.
Well, actually, I was going to respond to what you were talking about before with the Corinthians. It says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. I just like that and wanted to share that.
Yeah, I love that too. Thank you for sharing that. So that is actually a good segue into answering Andrea's question, which was, what does long suffering even mean? And I believe that, you think about this takes me back to the session that I had with the woman that had a lot of health challenges yesterday. And we were talking about her health challenges and she said, I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of the suffering. How do I release and let go of the fear of suffering? Well, when a person goes through a lifetime of suffering or deep, intense trauma and wounds, where they have suffered long, but then they've triumphed and they've overcome that challenge and they've stepped into the higher levels of love, that person has quite the capacity to love, has quite the capacity for compassion, tenderness, understanding, being able to succor other people who are suffering because they know suffering. So in some ways, it's good that we come here into this earthly mortal plane and experience the things that we do, even in spite of the fact that nobody wants to suffer. And that's not really our end goal. It's not our desire to be thrust into great levels of suffering. But when you experience and overcome long suffering, you have great capacity for compassion and empathy and forgiveness and the fruits of the spirit, which is love and peace and joy, because you've already been through probably the depths of the opposite of what love is. So if you truly want to know what love is, buckle up, because you're probably going to be introduced to what it isn't first. And to me, that's long suffering.
May I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
This is amazing. I love this. And I was thinking about, there's so many different levels to respond to this.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, the first thing that came to me was the words, suffer little children to come unto me. And we could expand on that and take that to mean many different things, right? But it also made me think about our perception, how we look at things. So when we're feeling pain, when we're being challenged, it's our perception. Are we focused on, oh my God, this is horrible, this is negative? Or can we ask the question that you and I always talk about? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I expand my awareness from this? Again, there's just so many levels. And I do feel, and again, like you always say, this is also my feeling, my belief, is that those who suffer are probably, like you said, going to be the most loving, kind, amazing, aware people on this planet. And so the more we walk this spiritual path, the more we ask for, God, universal's help to walk the spiritual path, I feel the more of those kind of challenges and suffering we might experience. And again, simply by changing our perception of what it is, I think we can move through, suffering and come out on the other end with just more love.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it reminds me of, those of us who are Christian and have studied the life of Christ, and we talk about the atonement, we talk about his suffering in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he really did take upon him all the pains, all the sickness, all the worry, all the stress, all the suffering. Like he descended below all of it. He wanted to taste and experience all the suffering that ever was, so that he could then succor everyone, whoever is, right? Everyone in their suffering. There is no suffering in the world that he cannot succor, that he has not experienced, that he has not overcome. And so I think a lot about that. I think that suffering is a tremendous gift because it's lending to our experience, like you talked about, and it's lending to our experience. So our true potential, we're talking all today about realizing our highest potential. Well, our highest potential is love. It's as simple as that. Your highest potential is love. And what does that look like as it materializes and manifests in your life? So when I did that class back in December on opening your heart to higher levels of love, one of the handouts that I gave you guys, actually it was in one of the deeper classes, the deeper dives that we went into. It was a paid class, but there was a handout that I gave some of you on opening the heart, exercises for healing. And I want to share a little piece of this handout with you because I think it's really profound. But it says, the heart is all about laws of love. As you open yourself up to more love flowing freely in and freely out, you will notice more empathy through vulnerability, through our suffering, compassion through humility, forgiveness through letting go, healing from the highest self or the highest levels of self-love. That's where healing comes from. And joy, which is the byproduct of an open heart. Joy is the byproduct of love. Joy is the byproduct of aligning with the highest will that God has for you. Anytime that you come closer and closer and closer to the divine, to God's highest will, or to God, the byproduct will always be joy. It will never not be that. And then last of all, creation through the manifestation of love. That's what you'll notice as you open up your heart and expand it to higher levels of love. Empathy, compassion, forgiveness, healing, joy, creation through the expression of love. So anytime you get an opportunity to express high levels of love, whether it's out shopping and you're like, oh my gosh, I love that dress. Oh my gosh, I love that piano. Whatever it is for you, that's what it would be for me, probably. But things like that fill you with love. The byproduct is joy every time. And there's nothing superficial about that. You can experience things in the material world that remind you of the love that you are. There's nothing wrong with that. Andrea, did you have something else?
I was just thinking about long suffering, and I do agree with you that we learn a lot through suffering. I also agree. I mean, I also feel, because I've been through the long suffering, that you come to a place of joy after the long suffering, and then you don't really need to be in that long suffering all that much, because you've learned that through the suffering, you have learned compassion, you have learned different kinds of awareness of pain, so you can help people, as you know, they call it the wounded healer. Mm-hmm. Because they can come out of it and help others. But I also think that once you have gone through that long suffering, you don't need to keep going into it all that much. Life has that, it's just part of life. But we can live in a joyful place much of the time. And when we're tuned into the divine, man is that he might have joy. Mm-hmm. And I think that we our woman or humans are that they might have joy. And I think that we can live in a joyful place and not have to be in that suffering, long suffering, after we've learned the lessons.
Right. Yes. After we've had the experience and the contrast and learned the lessons, for sure. I think that it's our nature to be joyful because that is what we are. We are love. At the core of who we are, our beings, we are joy. We are compassion. We are forgiveness. All those really great energies, which are the fruits of the spirit. We are those things. That's the
Yes.
essence of who we are.
Thank you.
Yes. I see a hand. Lisa, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So often when I think of long suffering, I apply it like long suffering towards others. That, yeah, it just helps us to love people where they're at and let them have their journey and respect where they're at and respect their journey. And then one other thought that I just wanted to mention, I listened to your near-death experience that you recently put up a link to, and you expressed this sensation or this, I don't know, feeling that seems to be, I don't know, synonymous for everybody that has NDEs, but where you express this oneness, like become a part of like a blade of grass, the water, and when you, so I've tried to understand that and I've thought about it, like, I don't know if this was mentioned, but like when you see somebody, it's like they're a part of you, which, so an application for myself, it's like, okay, so I guess for me to try to understand this, it would be like whenever you are with anyone, see anyone, it would be as if that person is you, which would, maybe that's what helps to bring, like you would treat them how you want to be treated, and which would be like charity or the love. Anyway, just some observations. I'm trying to understand that if that applies, or if it doesn't, you can skip it. But if it kind of fits into this, if you would expound on that a little bit.
Yes, I want to expand on that. Actually, I'm just like chomping at the bit to expand on that. So yes, do you know how when we talk about Christ's suffering for us, wasn't necessarily to save us, but more so that he could have the highest levels of love for us and magnify that and exemplify it and be the manifestation of that level of love. So it was through that suffering, that long suffering, that he became one with us. And so I did a session on a gentleman not very long ago, just a few weeks ago. And typically when we work through the emotional aspects of what's coming up in their body, why are they stuck and what's going on and what's behind that, and we work through the emotions of it, sometimes then I will say, who do you get to be now? And they'll say, most people will say, I get to be me. I finally get to be me. But he didn't say that. He said, I get to be everyone. I get to be everyone. And you know what comes to mind when I think about that and what you said, bringing up the stepping into the oneness with everyone and being a part of everyone and them being a part of you. Think about a mother who goes down into the valley of the shadow of death to give birth, to bring life to a child. It hurts to give birth. I don't know if you've ever done it before, but any of you on here who have ever done it before, it's not comfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And I would say suffering in many ways. Great suffering. But when that baby comes into the world, there is no denying the oneness. There is no denying the connection. There is no denying the deepest levels of love your heart has ever been expanded to and exposed to. When you go into a state of suffering to the degree that you're literally laying your life on the line for another human being, that's deep love. That's deep compassion. That's deep empathy. That's deep. That's the deepest levels of love that a human being could have. Christ said, greater love hath no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. And you ask any mother, any woman who's been through childbirth, she's experienced those high levels of love, that oneness with another human being, which is, you know, her child. So those are some examples of long suffering and why long suffering is so important to generate aspects of love in us that can come from no other place but from that sacrifice, that willing sacrifice. So the metaphors that correspond with atonement and with Christ are just so beautiful and perfect here. And so as we're relating all of these things to how do we realize our divine potential by tapping into the divine, it's through love. It's through opening your heart and expanding your heart to the degree that you have the highest levels of love for all beings, for all creation. That's what Christ taught. That's what Christ was all about. Okay, so we have a couple of comments in here. Let me just read them really quick. Look at God's kingdom workers. Look at God's kingdom workers go. Look at God's kingdom workers go. Thank you, Katie, for sharing that. I probably didn't get the gist of it, but I think I get it now. Andrea says, what does long suffering have to do with love? We did talk about that. Lori says, in connection with charity, long suffering means being patient with others in their journey and loving them where they are. Suffer can also mean allow. Yeah, I agree with that. Suffering is definitely, I mean, if we want to come through the suffering, we have to surrender. We have to allow. We have to accept. We have to, what was the word that I used? Acceptance of what is what will ultimately allow you to move through the suffering so you can stand back up into the highest levels of love and joy and peace and all the things that we are. Andrea says, we can learn to live in a joyful place and not be in long suffering. Yes, truth. Thank you for sharing that. Cindy says, I love your statement, creation through the manifestation of love. I see that as co-creating with God to align with love for ourselves and others. Yes, if you want to co-create with God to align yourself with God, with love for yourself and others, focus on what you love. Go in the direction of where your open heart, not your closed heart or your bitter heart or your hard heart or your head. Go in the direction of where your open heart is leading you. Go in that direction. And it will always be for your highest good and for the highest good of others involved. Alicia says, wow, that helps me rethink some of my jealousies if I am them. Well, I don't know that we are jealousy. I think that's a bit of a distortion. I think it's an experience that we have when we come into this dense 3D plane. These are all experiences that we get to have. We get to learn through our jealousies and our fears and our anger and our bitterness and our pride, all the things that contrast who we really are. But I think that at the core of who we really are, it's love. That's infinite. Jealousy, anger, bitterness, fear, those things cannot last. You know, the scripture, I think the one that Anne shared, talked about how charity never faileth. It never decomposes. It never goes away. It never runs its course. It's always constant. It's always there. It never faileth. It's a constant. But things like jealousy and fear and anger and pride and worry and stress and anxiety and all those things fail because they're a distortion of who you really are. They're not the true representation of who you really are. So you have to work through that. You have to allow those things to burn through you so that you can get to that constant of what you are, who you are at the deepest level, which is love. Go ahead, Anne.
Yes, I just wanted to touch on that about, jealousy and all these things that we experience in our outer world. And one of the tools I found that really helps is when we can learn how to become the observer. In other words, to notice all of these things because it exists in our outer world. So when we can observe it without judgment, then we are powerful. Then we realize, as the observer, that those things are not, like you said, a part of me and who I am.
Yes.
This is something I'm experiencing in my outer world because you also mentioned earlier, it's being in this 3D world can be difficult sometimes, right?
Yes.
And so here we are trying to, experience our love, our spirit, God. And yet all these things like jealousy and all those things are constantly tugging at us.
Mm-hmm.
But again, finding a practice, and maybe you can talk about that, finding a practice that allows you to be the observer of these things without judgment, I think is the key.
That is key. Thank you for sharing that. I love that so much. That's so perfect. That goes right into the segue because I do want us to do some healing today. And so if you guys need to take a little bit of a break, go get a drink, maybe grab a pencil and a paper. We're going to go into some healing. We are going to open up your heart a little bit more today. And again, I do recommend this would be a great time to segue into watching that previous class that I did. I'll drop it into the replay, into the description box, but the one on opening up your heart, we're going to go a little bit deeper into that today. Couple more comments. Oh, 6 or 7 more. Hooray for epidurals. My last birth was without much pain. I agree. We do touch the veil of heaven when we give birth. Yeah. Hooray for epidurals. If you can have them. I never got to have one that really was effective because my spine is twisted. I feel stretched in many different directions to express my divine potential. How do I decide which direction to go? That is a great question. Stretched in many different directions to express my divine potential. How do I decide? Your higher self can help you with that. So tapping into your higher self and going in the direction of where love is pulling you. Where's your heart pulling you? Where's your heart guiding you? What is your heart pressing on your thoughts and your mind and and the feelings, thoughts to the mind, feelings to the heart? Those are some ways. Finding a daily practice, like Anne said, where you can really go in, tap into your higher self, really get centered, rooted, stable, grounded, tapped in to your higher self. That part of you will never lead you astray. It can't. It can't lead you astray. Anything in this dense outer world that passes away is not the sum total of you. It might be a part of your experience. So anything that passes away, that's your body. That's a part of it. Your body is an experience that you're having, but it is not the sum total of who you are. It's just an experience. It's just an activity. Same with jealousy, anger, anxiety, fear, bitterness, shame, grief, sorrow, whatever it might be. Any of those are experiences. Those things pass away. That's not who you are. So learn to observe those things, learn to embrace them, accept them, allow them to work their way through you. Okay, Alicia says, oh, I'm saying when I'm feeling jealous, instead I can see their successes and love it. Love it for them. Love it for them that they are getting to experience it. If we are all one, then I can say I'm part of that. I'm part of that. Yeah, you can say that. Elaine, perspective is key. What is fearful and terrible for one can be received by another as a gift. Absolutely, perspective is key. Fear and pain are subjective. Breathing through birthing contractions can be a gift when received in love. Yes. breathing through. And that's exactly what we do when we're moving energy, like emotions or beliefs or energies that are weighing us down and keeping us stuck. Sometimes the breath will help us to move through those energies. Mike says, I feel like I'm feeling empathic exhaustion. Is it possible to care too much? Interesting. Maybe it's that you're holding on to too much. So when you tap into somebody else's pain, are you allowing yourself room to let it go? Or are you holding on to some of that, and then it's creating exhaustion and heaviness and depletion, if that makes sense? I don't believe it's possible to care too much or to love too much. I do not believe that that's a possibility. I think it is possible to hold on to too much, for sure. So maybe just looking at the difference of that. Alicia says, yes, I feel that as a parent, figuring out how to care without stressing and taking on their pain. Right, you just hit the nail on the head, taking it on. So there's a difference between succoring someone, having compassion and empathy for someone, having love, being in a place of love for someone without taking on their pain. If Christ had done that, like he had this high level of love that he could feel all of the pain for us, but didn't necessarily take that on as baggage. Yes, it was exhausting. Yes, it was painful. Yes, he went through all the feelings and all the experience to purge that through his system, but then when it was complete, allowed it to be let go of. And then what did he do? Stepped into the highest levels of love as the Christ, which that's who he is. That's who we are. And he's just showing us that's who you are too. You can do the same thing. Man, there's a lot of messages. Thank you guys for your contributions today. This is really awesome feedback. Katie says, continued grace in the midst of resistance. When walking in God's love and alignment to his will. Many are called to walk in love, but the inner work that it takes is tough work at times. The surrender and trust that God's ways are higher and always for the highest good and love. I believe that as his body or church, his kingdom are elevating through the matrix, we can only get to that higher place by coming into alignment, head, heart, of head and your heart in love. Oh my gosh, total wisdom right there. That was beautiful. I might have to copy and paste that into the handout for today's class. Thank you for sharing that. That was really perfectly said. That was in response to the long suffering question. Can I just reread it again? Hopefully you guys don't mind. Continued grace in the midst of resistance. When walking in God's love and alignment to his will, many are called to walk in love, but the inner work that it takes is tough work at times. The surrender and trust that God's ways are higher and always for our highest good and love. I believe that as his body, his church, his kingdom are elevating through the matrix, we can only get to that higher place by coming into alignment, head, heart, in love. Yes, we have to come into alignment with love. And again, let me reiterate, this is the one and only principle we're talking about today. I don't have a big list for you. I just have one thing. And that is, if you want to realize your highest and truest potential, align and open yourself to love, the highest levels of love. And don't deny love in your life or in your body. Allow it to be manifested freely. Do not shut your heart down. Open your heart up. As scary as that may be, to make decisions that are in alignment with the highest levels of love, because you never know how other people are going to respond to you making those decisions. You might be following your heart, but it might be hard for other people in your life to accept the fact that you're following your heart. And when you follow your heart, oftentimes it's going to take you out of boxes and out of boats and out of paradigms and out of places where your past life was a comfort to some people. As you expand and you open and you grow into greater levels of love, it might offend others, and that's okay. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to overcome the fear of stepping into your highest potential, which is love. It takes a lot of courage. In true connection to the divine, there is no separation between love and your highest purpose. There's no difference. So that's how you know you're on your true soul's path, is because you love it and it fills you with love and you feel that love. Okay? In true connection with the divine, there's no separation between love and your highest purpose. There's no separation between love and your highest relationships. In that true connection to the divine, there's no separation between love and your highest self. There's no separation between love and God. So some things to think about. Andrea says, what if people in our family are resisting us reaching our divine potential? Perfectly timed. I think I just addressed that, like within the last minute. If people are resisting you reaching your highest divine potential, what do you need to do? You might need to take some bold steps. You might need to overcome some fear. You might need to step out of your comfort zone in order to follow your soul's true path. Because again, I've said this 1,000 times, you guys, no one has the right to stand between you and what you love. No one has the right to stand between you and God, because that's the same thing. No one has the right to stand between you and your highest self, because that's the same thing as love. No one has the right to stand between you and your true soul's path, because that's the same thing, again, as love. Follow your heart. That's your highest potential. Follow your heart. And don't be afraid or ashamed. Go ahead, Andrea.
Yes, I agree with that. I do think, though, sometimes there is resistance, maybe out of jealousy, or they're afraid your direction is going to take away from them.
Yeah, but it's not your responsibility to make people feel comfortable just so that you can repress your true soul's path. You don't repress your connection with God or your connection with the divine or your true soul's path just so that others can feel safe or comforted.
Yes, I like that. I also wonder, though, sometimes have you had to feel like you had to leave family members to move on, or how does that work? I mean, like, say your spouse or children or whatever. How do you deal with those very close relationships like that?
Yeah, that happens all the time to people, all the time. If there's an impasse, or if there's a feeling that you can't reach your highest potential in a specific setting or in a specific relationship, sometimes people do have to distance themselves, for sure.
So do you think communication with the partner is important so that they can understand where you're coming from so that they can grow with you?
Yes, I do. I think care and concern and compassion can go a long, long way, instead of just saying, I'm out of here, right? Care and concern and compassion can go a long way.
Yes, I agree.
So one of the things that I want us to step into right now is we're going to get centered. We're going to go through a healing exercise. We've got 15 minutes. We're going to go through a healing exercise, and I want you to just write down on your pieces of paper, if you have it in front of you, if you've got your journals out, I want you to write down, what do you love? And you could make a whole list of things. I've done this exercise before where I've written down hundreds of things that I love that fill my soul with love. The next thing that I want you to write down is, what is it that you want? In this moment right now, in this part of your path, as you're on your soul's true path, what do you want? Where do you want to go? What do you want to see happen? What do you want to have or be or do or experience? So what do you want? And where are you stuck? As you're walking this path, you're going, it's like the invite to this class was all about this hike that I took with my husband. And there were different aspects of the path. There were forks in the road, there was overgrowth, there was places where the path got really skinny and all you could do was take the next right step in front of you to get over all the rocks and the roots and the trees and the stuff that was in the way. But then there were also parts of the path where it widened up and it was paved. And there were also parts of the path where the vistas opened up and you could see clearly exactly where you were in relation to geography. You could get your bearings instead of just seeing the forest. So what do you want? What do you love? What do you want? Where are you stuck? Where are you stuck? You might have to really think this through. And you can identify where you're stuck because there might be fear, there might be sadness, there might be uncertainty, there might be unforgiveness, there might be some energies or some feelings or maybe even beliefs. And we're going to get to that in just a second. What is holding you back from what you truly want and what you truly love? What's holding you back? Is it the belief, like Andrea said, is it the belief that, well, I'm stuck in these relationships, and because I'm stuck in these relationships or this relationship, I can't get to where I'm going. I can't have what I want because I'm here and I'm obligated. Well, that's a belief. That's a belief, right? I mean, I have tons of thoughts about all of that, and we could go deeper into that conversation, but we're not going to right now. Andrea says, I think people release others too quickly sometimes. We're experiencing the long suffering that comes through the growth of love. Yeah. And so if it's the right thing for you to stick it out because of love, then you do that. But ultimately, how do you know what the right thing to do is? You got to tap into your higher self. So everybody take a big breath in and a big breath out right now. We're going to tap into your higher self. And I want you to just put your awareness and your attention deep down into your body. For a longer, deeper healing experience, please go visit the class that I did. Follow that link when I post the replay. Follow that link and go do your inner work to open up and expand the heart, and it will help you a ton. But take a big breath in and a big breath out. Put your awareness at the base of your spine. You can close your eyes if you want to and just kind of focus inward. Go within. Dropping down. Drop your shoulders on the exhale a little bit. Just releasing any tension, any resistance in your body. Just releasing all of that. Letting all the emotions come to the surface of where you feel stuck. What's holding you back? Is it fear? Is it sadness? Is it uncertainty? Where are you lying to yourself? Where are you blaming your external circumstances for your stuckness? Where are you lying to yourself? Where are you blaming your external circumstances. You can write some of that out, journal it out. You may have to come back to this and pause some of these questions to really get deeper, but I highly recommend it. Breathe in, breathe out, let go. So as you breathe in, I want you to just pretend you're breathing in tons and tons of liquid light. Breathe it all the way into your bones, into your cells, into your joints. Put your awareness at the base of the spine. Let's unravel some of the tension that's showing up in your neck. Woo! Let that go. You can roll your shoulders around, up, back, and down to just kind of open up some of that space and feel yourself stretching the ribs out, stretching your muscles out. Breathe in, breathe out, let go. Put your awareness within. You can either go into the heart space or you can go down to the foundation of your soul at the base of the spine. The next phase of being centered is expansion. So we want to look for the feeling of expanding out. So push your aura out on the exhale. As you drop your shoulders and you drop your awareness down into your body deeper, push your light out, big, 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 bright, 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 boldly pushing that light out. Fill up the room that you're in with your aura, with your essence. Pretend that your energy is touching the walls and the ceiling and the floors and the cracks and corners, and even going out beyond all of that, out into the universe. Drop your shoulders on the exhale, push your light out on the exhale. Letting go, letting go. The exhale is about letting go. The inhale is about feeding and nurturing and nourishing. So breathing in liquid light, breathing it into your bones, breathing it into your joints, your cells. What is holding you back? And as you think about what's holding you back, what's keeping you stuck, what's weighing you down, where in your body do you feel that? Where in your body is the density, the heaviness? Where do you feel the stuckness? Just notice it. You might feel heaviness in your heart, or pressure in your face, or stress and anxiety in your gut. Whatever you feel, wherever you feel it, just notice it and breathe into that. Also, what is the belief around this stuckness? What's holding you back? And what do you believe about that? Well, I can't have X, Y, and Z because fill in the blank. I can't be this person because fill in the blank. What's preventing you? What's stopping you? And don't tell me it's money. And don't tell me it's the lack of money. And don't tell me it's another human. And don't tell me it's your religion or your marriage or your siblings or whatever. Those are excuses. Those are excuses. Those are beliefs. So what is the belief? Next, I want you to identify what's the fear around that belief. I can't have whatever it is, because, so that's your belief. So what is the emotion? Where's the fear? And why is this path that you know you're supposed to be on, that you know you're supposed to have, be, or do, why is this path so important to you? Why? Why is this path so important to you? Write that down. You're going to want to journal this stuff out because it's going to come to you intuitively. So take a moment to pause this if you're watching the replay and journal it out. What is the belief? What am I afraid of? What is resisting me? And why is that important? And why is that important? And why is that important? Follow that down the rabbit hole. I'll give you an example. My daughter has been living with us for the last few months, and I came in to the room after going through several mentoring sessions, and I was tired. And I said, man, this is a lot of work to carry all of this energy around, kind of like what Mike said, carrying all this energy around from all these people. And she's like, oh, what's the belief about that? And my belief was, this feels heavy to be so responsible for so many people's emotions and feelings and their lives unfolding. It's hard, but we do it anyways. And she said, well, what's the belief behind that? My belief is I came here to the planet to do this work. Why? What is the belief? Why is that important to you? Why is it important for me to do this work? Because I feel like it's helping a lot of people. Well, why is that important to you? To help other people. What are you getting out of it? And what I realized is that I'm getting some self-satisfaction out of it. And why is that important to you? Then you start getting into the humbling questions, the humbling answers like, oh, it's important to me because I feel like I'm important when I'm helping other people. Well, why is that important to you? To feel important? Maybe I'm holding this fear that I'm not enough. Yep, there's the fear that somehow I'm not enough if I can't help a lot of people. Boom! She got right down to the root. And we could have probably even gone deeper than that. And then she said, what is the emotion? If you're not enough because you can't help people, if you're feeling like you're not enough, what's the emotion? And then I started to cry because there was deep sadness coming out. So do you see what I'm saying to you when I say go down the rabbit hole of why is that important? Why does that matter? Why is that important to you? And why is that important to you? And when you get down to the last little bits of the rabbit hole, what is the emotion? And it'll probably be either anger or deep sadness. And it'll probably be something that has to do with I'm not enough somehow, or I'm scared that I'm not enough somehow. So process through all of that, wend your way through all of those emotions. And then when you're ready, let's move some of this energy through our bodies. So let's take a minute to do a little bit of 2-pointing. So find any 2 points on your body, use your fire finger, the tallest finger that you have, just only the tips of the tallest finger. Find any 2 points on your body. This one represents where you are. This one represents where you want to be. And just sit in the gap. I want you to feel point A and point B, where you are and where you want to be. I want you to feel that space between these 2 points and sit in the gap. Just notice the gap. My teachers taught me that the distance between 2 points is always suffering. Here's where I am, here's where I want to be. And that gap represents the misery or the suffering, or at least the perception of suffering. like has been brought up so wisely in this class. It's suffering is just a perspective. So can we observe that suffering for a moment? Can we step into the gap and can we just allow ourselves to release it? So just let those two hands rest in your lap, palms facing up, and just allow point A now and point B to morph into one single speck. And as soon as you've got that one single speck, drop it and breathe. Breathing out, dropping your awareness down, down, down to the base of the spine at the foundation of your soul. Breathe in, breathe out, let go. Drop your shoulders. Just letting it go. Letting go of all the suffering. Letting go of the need to suffer. Letting go of all the stories, the excuses. I want you to recognize that where you are and where you want to be, they are already connected. You're already one with where you want to be. You are the place that you want to be. Where you think you want to be in this mortal dimension, in this 3D world, the external circumstances and the places and the things that you want to do and discover and have and be and do, and all that material stuff, what you're really looking for is you. You're looking for a connection to you. You want a pile of money? Why do you want money? It's so you can feel safe. So you can feel important, whatever it is. You want a new relationship? Why do you want that? So you can feel loved. You already are. You already are safe. You already are loved. You already are all the things you're looking for in your external world. You are that. So let's do one more round of 2 pointing. Find any 2 points. I don't care if it's your big toe. Notice point A and notice point B. Point A is where you are. Point B is where you want to be. Breathe in and breathe out. Just feel into that gap. Now, when you're ready, let point A and point B morph and come together. You can rest your hands in your lap. Let A and B morph into one single speck. And as soon as you get them to that one singularity, that one point of wholeness, the oneness, drop it. Oof. Like you drop a stone into a pool of water and it ripples out. Breathe in, breathe out, let go. Breathe in, breathe out, let go. Drop your shoulders on the exhale. Drop your awareness down to the base of the spine at the foundation of your soul. You can also go into your heart center. Andrea says the speed of transition can be quite uncomfortable for others. I believe because it's a reflection of their own insecurities, hurts, habits, etc. Walking in love makes your light shine brighter, which is exposing to others. However, don't underestimate the power of prayer. Praying, love in connection, and confidence in communication will help with having the grace and releasing judgment, because each person is on their own journey with God. Okay, that's beautiful. Oh, yes, Katie said that. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for clarifying. Thank you, Katie, for sharing that. All right, so now coming back to where you feel the disconnect from what it is that you want. Where do you feel it now in your body? What do you feel and where do you feel it now? So in regards to what do you want? What do you love? What is blocking you? What's in your way? What's preventing you? What is the gap, the suffering? Where is that in your body now? Did it change? Did it move? Did it shift? Did it get less? If it didn't, let's do a little bit of fire breathing. You can also stretch out the neck and the face and the tongue. Open up your jaw, have your tongue stretch out your jaw and hold that position for about 5 to 8 counts. The lion's pose. You can stretch out your neck if you need to. Drop your awareness down to the base of the spine. And as you release that pose, let go. Breathe and soften. Let's do some fire breathing. Fire breathing, just quick puffs of breath. You can go in through the nose and mouth at the same time, and then out. So let's do 20. Ready, go. I'm just going to wipe off my camera. Good job. Breathe. Do not hold your breath. Put your awareness at the base of the spine and breathe and soften. Go into recovery. Just moving energy. As you go into recovery, move that energy through your body. Keep breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Drop your awareness to the base of the spine. On the exhale, push your aura out. Just let go. Just let go. All right. Now, breathing. I want you to go to the base of the spine or into the depths of your heart. Actually, let's go into the heart. Let's go open up the heart for a minute. So I want you to pretend there's a door on the side of your heart. Open that door and step inside. As you step into the heart center, you recognize that there is no floor or walls or ceiling in that room. It's just pure, non-limited love and light in the form of light. So just pure, expansive, golden white light going out in every direction, above, below, in front of, behind you. Like the sun, like you stepped into the center of the sun and the sun stepped into your heart. Breathe in, breathe out, expand. All I want you to do is shine and soften your body. Breathe in, breathe out, expand, going into the core of your heart. And I want you to ask your heart in this moment right now, what is the next right step in front of me, if there is a step? Maybe there isn't anything for you to do. Maybe it's just that you need to just be. But if there is some doing that needs to come from your center, ask your heart, what is the right direction for me? And what's the gentlest, kindest, lovingest, most compassionate, joyful feeling? Where is it leading you? Write it down. Where is your heart leading you? Write that down. Breathe into that some more. Breathe in, breathe out, drop your shoulders and spread out. Expand out, push your aura out. You can even put one hand over your heart, one hand over your gut, and just say, what would love do in this situation where I feel stuck? What would love do? and write down the answer. Only you know because your heart's telling you. So you write down the answer. What would love do? What would the highest levels of love do? Even if it's hard, even if it's scary, even if people will be mad at you, what would love do? Okay, write that down. And then also, if I wasn't afraid, I would, and then write it down. If I wasn't afraid, I would. And what does your heart tell you is the next right step in front of you. Now, if you're feeling any anxiety, any stuckness, any heaviness in the body, and it's distracting to you, you probably need to do some more inner work. So go back, do the 2 pointing until those feelings of heaviness and stuckness and whatever's coming up for you starts to go away. You can do the breathing, you can do the 2 pointing, whatever you got to do. But release that until your body feels lighter, until your body feels more open, until your body feels surrendered to the highest levels of love in you. Okay, and then also go watch that other video that I mentioned on opening up your heart. I will post it into the description of the replay of this over on Greater Life, Greater Impact on my YouTube channel. So you can find it there. It'll take you through a bit of a deeper healing exercise where you can open your heart even more. If your heart is closed because you're afraid or sad or scared or worried or something's preventing you, you are not going to manifest the desires of your heart. You're not going to manifest the true aspects of your soul's path if your heart is shut down. You will not realize your highest potential if your heart is not open. So learn to open your heart. Go within, do your inner work, identify where you're afraid, where you're stuck, what's holding you back, what's weighing you down, and just recognize that those are just beliefs and fears. We've got to work our way through them. And yes, you can have these conversations. If you have to have conversations with people, you can do it with care and concern and compassion and love. But at the end of the day, you and only you are responsible for where you're going and how you're going to get there. You and only you. And you and only you, your higher self, knows what that path, what that journey is supposed to look like for you. So be willing to listen. And don't let anybody else tell you what that path is supposed to look like. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the great energy. I hope you got some healing out of today. If you didn't, go back and watch the replay and do this again, because this was a very healing day. Also, if you need more help, if you need someone to take you by the hand and walk you through some of this personally to help you get to the roots, I'm always here for you. All right, take care, you guys. Have a blessed day. Mwah.